So rules are very important, and they're very important in CADWorx also. So in this video, we're going to show you how to adjust the rules and what does each one of them do. In one of my previous videos, I showed you the config file, and on one of those categories was pipe rules. And so today we're going to actually look at those pipe rules and find out what each one of them does. So let's go into our config file. Again, you can go into right here on your CADWorx Plant 1 menu right here and go to Setup, or you can type it in either one you want to. And so that's going to bring you up into your config file or your setup. So we're going to go into our piping rules. That's the fifth one down. And we're going to look at some of these rules. Okay, so first one, we got our size rule. We have a couple options here. We can go no, we don't want to change it if we are on a different size. Automatic or show options. And so what I mean by that is, so let's say let's try this no. Okay, we're going to hit no. I'm going to hit apply and close. And again, if you hit apply and close, it'll come up with this and says changes not saved. It's only for this one session that we're working with. So we're going to hit OK. Yes, we know. And so let's hover over here. We've got a 3-inch pipe. Okay, so we're gonna, yeah, we got a 4-inch, and so let's go right here. This was done at a different spec, so we'll get rid of that. Okay, and so now we want to go into, let's say, a 3-inch, and let's pick a flange, and here we go, weld neck 150, and we click on the end of the pipe. Now let's change how this connects. So we're going to hit B for butt weld, and we're going to click right here and give it a direction, and let me go ahead and change that to solid. So you can see that it does not look right. Something's not right in Mudville. And so when we have that selected to no, it's going to automatically just let you place whatever fitting you want to. So let's go ahead and get rid of that and go back into our setup. And we're going to show you automatic. Okay. Apply and close, yes. And we're going to select our flange again. We want the butt weld side. And we're going to pick it. Go. And you see it automatically size the weld neck up to a 4-inch, and so that'll allow you to, run your pipe a little bit more efficiently. So we're going to go and look at the last one. Here we go. So show options. We're going to hit apply and close. Yes. I know I could turn that off and say don't show me in the future, but I liked having it up there just as a reminder. And so we're going to pick our weld neck, and again, butt weld. We're going to pick that. Give it. Okay, now you can see it gives you an option right here. Keep size, keep current size, which is the size that we are using, which is a 3-inch right now. Selected pipe size. Okay. And so it'll automatically bring it up to a 4-inch if we want to. And so there you go. So that is the apply size rule. Now, what I just showed you there is true for the specification rule, the N-type rule. Let's see, it also is true for the pipe in prep rule. Let's see, line number. No, it doesn't do it for the line number. It actually has a little different option. But since we've already touched on it, let's talk about it. So the line number rule, you have two options. You have always inherit and show options. So let's say you're routing a line and you go and decide to start on another line. Let's say you didn't have information for a control valve or something, so you said, oh, I'll come back to that line later on. And then you go out and model something else, and you're using that line number. Well, then you get your information, you want to jump back onto that line, and you place a fitting. Well, you forgot to change the line number to the line that you're actually working on. So if you have it to always inherit, it'll always inherit whatever you're connecting to. So if you put your control valve in that location, it's going to inherit whatever line number that you're connecting to. If you have it to show options, when you place that fitting, it's going to ask you, hey, this line number is not the same as what you picked, or are you sure you want to use it, or do you want to use the one you picked, or you want to keep using the one that you've already working on? And so it gives you a kind of a check there, and you can go ahead and do that. It helps prevent with disconnects, and so that's very important. So what I usually do is just always inherit. It's just the way that I set my stuff up. Okay, so getting back, we said the pipe in rule is the same as the size rule. So your pipe length rule, if you click on one of these, no automatic or options, basically what it'll do is if you have built a spec that has like a 20-foot span or a 40-foot span, it's going to inherit that information and will not allow you to make it go past that mark. You'll have to put a set of flanges in there or a field weld or whatever. And so it just kind of gives you a check. Your flange, your weld insertion tool, you have butt weld, socket weld, or butt weld and socket weld. I usually have these turned off. The welds are going to show up on the ISO when you drop them. If you want to have like a weld count and you want to account for that 16th inch gap for the weld, that's the reason you would put that in there. But you'd have to have a 16th inch or an 8th inch weld gap, typically 16th, but 16-inch weld gap for in your spec, and it has to be the first weld that's placed in your spec for that to work. Your gasket insertion tool or rule, you've got none, flanges and clamps only. And so again, I don't put any on my clamps, and so I usually just do flanges only. Bolts insertion rule, same thing. None, flanges, clamps, or flanges and clamps. So typically flanges. So that way your bolts come in automatically. You don't have to go back and do auto bolts or place them manually. They'll automatically come in every time you place a flange. Next one is apply trimmed elbow. Your choices are no and automatic. So if you need a trimmed elbow for whatever reason, you can put that in there. If it's set to no, then it's just, if you select a 90 degree elbow and you try to do a 75 degree elbow bend or 75 degree elbow that's been trimmed, it's not going to allow you to do it. So I typically keep that on automatic. Pipe healing rule, you got automatic and no. This one's a little tricky. I usually like mine turned on because if I delete something, I want it to heal the pipe. But a lot of my designers don't like it, so I usually have it off for them because they don't like it. So it's personal preference. Now, what I usually do is I set it to no, I turn that off, and I allow them to, make that choice. Apply branch rule. So in your specs, you can have a branch chart table in there, and you can select, yes, you want to follow it, which would be automatic, or no, you don't. Typically, we have this turned on automatic with this turned off, so that way, if for some reason there's an oddball connection in there that they want to do, then that will allow them to override that in those specific circumstances. Flange insertion rule. You can use no flanges at all. No. So if you place a valve, it won't put any flanges at all. Use automatic. Use your spec settings. So inside your specs, when you build them, you can select what your default flange is. Well neck, slip on, whatever. And then again, you can choose it here on this level. Socket, threaded, long well neck, slip on, or show options. So if you have show options turned on, then and you have multiple flanges, when you go to place a valve, it's going to ask you every single on both ends what lets you choose which flange you want to use. So I mean that's personal preference as far as how you build your specs. I typically use spec settings. Two-hole orientation. Your choices are 1, and then specify input angle. So this is very important if you're using 3D enhanced, and one hole means that on the vertical on your valve you have one hole up at the top for the bolt. Two holes basically it's offset just a hair, and so you got one like at a 45-degree angle on both sides if it's a 4 bolt. And so typically we do 2-hole. That's just kind of industry standard. So next one's your pipe in prep tool. Very similar to this one, pipe in type rule, but typically we set that to either automatic or show options. Coupling, automatic at pipe breaks only, at all connections, or show options. I typically have that turned off, and then have this unchecked, so that way if they are running a small bore pipe and they want to have a coupling in the middle of it, if they're running a long strand of pipe that is socket weld or threaded, then they can put a coupling in there where it connects. Apply line number rule. This one here, always inherit. Again, we talked about this. I always do inherit just so it limits disconnects. We're going to jump over this one real quick because this one is very important. I want to make sure that we get to it. Apply OLED minimum length rule. You can set up different spacing. By default and by industry standards is 1/4 of an inch, so we keep it 1/4 of an inch. Center line, if you don't want to see your center lines on your pipe on your model, you can turn that on and off. Minimum apply skew pipe maximum angle. This is more for ISO works. You can do a minimum skew or maximum skew angle before it goes crazy and gives you an angle. Variable component length assignment. Okay, this one is also very important. So your choices are use catalog length and show options. So basically, if you have an RV or a control valve or a bleed ring, those are variable length items inside of CADWorx. It allows you to place those it allows you to place the length of those when you place the valve or place those fittings. And so if you have a control valve that is 2 foot long, and when you bring it into CADWorx, it's only 1.5 feet. Well, when you place it, it'll allow you to make that length. So that's what show options do. Now, if you use just catalog length, the CAD administrator and the pipe catalog has a length in there for default. And so whatever that default length, that's what it's going to come in at. And so typically you won't show options, so that way you don't have to build every control valve there is in the world that comes in. You can allow the designers to be able to adjust that length. And then incomplete component actions. This is a new one, and it's come out in the last couple years. I've never really had any problems with this one, so I just leave it as show options. I don't even mess with it. And then graphics overlay. Again, this is a new one that's come out in the last several years. Never really had a problem with this. If you have any questions on these, you can always just hit F1 and it'll give you that information on those. Again, I've not really dealt with these two, so I can't really tell you what they mean. Okay, so going back up to the apply change data rule. Okay, this could be a whole different video, but we're going to cram everything into this one, and I'm sorry for the length, but there's a lot to go through here, so we'll try to make it quick and easy. So apply change data rule. Now you notice there's no pull down on this one, and that's because you have different values that you can change. So if you click this ... at the end of it, okay, then it brings up this dialog box right here, and it allows you to select what you want to change and what you don't want to change. So if you read the instructions, it says the selected data will not update with change size, change spec, or convert from project data. And so anything that is checked will not change. So typically what I do on my setups is I select everything. Okay, that means that nothing will change, and then I allow the designers to go in there and adjust what they want to change. So let's say we had a description that was wrong on a pipe spec, and we wanted them to we went in, the CAD administrator went in there, made the change, and then all they have to do is do a convert from PRJ data or convert from project data and update that description. So that next time the ISO drops out, it's correct. Or the next time you drop a bill of material, it's correct. So what they would have to do is go into here and click on long description and make sure that that is not checked. So when they ran that only the long description would change. The reason I have everything checked except for what I want to change is so that way you don't overwrite information that you already have in there, like line number. So if you had, you're working on another line, and the CAD admin changes the description. If that was unchecked, it would change it to whatever line number you're working on at that time. If you have notes in your isogen data, then when you would run it, it would get rid of all those notes and you'd have to start all over again. Or spool sheets or whatever you have in your ISO, it would go ahead and change that. And so, just selecting what you want to change at that time is important. You might want to change the custom data or just the database code or whatever you want to change. just remember whatever is unchecked is what's going to change. Then when you're done, you just go ahead and hit OK, and then save and close. And then your configuration settings are saved at that point, as long as you have right access to that folder that they're located in. I know that was a really long video, guys, and I appreciate you staying with me. But there was a lot to cover in the pipe rules. That's the reason we totally did a different video on that one instead of lumping it in with the config file setup. So I hope that helps. I hope it gives you a little bit more clarity on what the pipe rules are and how to use them. And if there's anything you'd like for me to cover, please let me know. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.